was started by teachers in 1929. Since the beginning, our vision has been to foster a culture of service and commitment to our community. We're passionate about providing valuable resources and tools to our members to help achieve financial prosperity. With that, I'm excited to welcome you to today's financial webinar on the topic of what's the real cost of college, how to plan now.
All right. Well, thank you, Will, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, we've got quite a bit of information to cover today. We're going to go at a pretty spirited pace, but like Will mentioned, there will be a chance for some questions, and hopefully we can get you on the right track with some answers. I'm going to go ahead and stop my video just to make sure that we can save bandwidth. Other than that, let's go ahead and just get started. So today, what we're going to be discussing is we're going to be talking about ways to save for college. Because we're going to have quite a few members on this presentation today, we're not necessarily sure where everyone's starting. So we're going to kind of cover, some of the gamuts of whether your children or those that are thinking about college. Maybe they're youngsters, maybe they're in their teens, maybe they're at high school, junior, senior, and getting ready to go. So we're going to be covering a few aspects of the whole life cycle. Talking about some of the determining factors within the costs. We're going to discuss the FAFSA. We're also going to be discussing understanding the financial aid offer and what you can expect if you do have college-bound students, what you can expect to be kind of seeing on some of the forms and documents that you'll be receiving from various different colleges and universities. Exploring, finding and applying for college scholarships and grants. There we go. And obviously some of the other gap financing options, student loans and tuition payment plans. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So needless to say, there's a lot of information that's out there. We've all heard about various different ways to save for college. There's obvious, the checking, the savings, the money markets, the CDs, so on, what have you. And, Cal Coast Credit Union can really help with all of that information for you at a later time. But just wanted to highlight some of the education-centric savings plans that are out there. We're not going to go in tremendous details. Again, Cal Coast Credit Union would be more than happy to help you understand some of the different accounts that are here, Coverdell ESAs in particular and such. So just to let you know that there are different types of college savings plans that are out there. And if you have students or kids and whatnot that basically are in a particular time in their life where you've got a few years before you could be potentially using these resources, you definitely want to make sure that you start researching and getting all of the information you need to make an informed decision. As we mentioned, previously, there's various different investment tools, money market accounts, CDs, savings accounts. Cal Coast Credit Union in their financial management, wealth management section can certainly discuss more in detail of stocks and bonds, mutual funds, retirements accounts. But just to let you know that right now, currently, there's a lot of information out there on ways to save for college. In fact, a study that Sallie Mae does each and every year are how America pays for college in partnership with Ipsos. 56% of the expenditures from a family are coming from both parent and student, combining their various different accounts and such. To help offset the cost of education. So this is still a large portion of the financing aspect or the funding aspect of college. So definitely be thinking about them now. So let's go ahead and talk about the actual college aspect of going to school and what you could be expecting. This is going to be, information that we have right now. So we're going to be looking at students that are, seniors in high school, juniors in high school. Maybe you've taken a year off after secondary education, you're thinking about attending. Or for those that are in the membership and such that are thinking about heading to college, maybe this is something that you've postponed in life after high school and you're thinking about returning. So all of this information is going to be utilized, can be utilized by you to try and make better decisions and more informed decisions as to how you want to proceed with your higher education path. What you'll see here is we have two separations. We've got the direct costs and the indirect costs. And essentially, when you are planning on attending school, colleges and universities will be putting forth what is called a cost of attendance for you. And we'll talk a little bit about cost of attendances in the next upcoming slides. But the cost of attendance is going to include both your direct costs and your indirect costs. And essentially, your direct costs are just that. They are going to be the billable charges that a college puts forth based on the tuition that you plan on, the amount of credits that you plan on taking, various different required fees. There may be health center, student activity, lab fees. There might be various different fees that are assigned with other courses. There may be what they call associated student body fees, ASB fees and such. So all of those costs will be billed directly to you in the form of obviously a bill. If you happen to be living on campus, if you happen to be utilizing the meal plans on campus, housing and meal plans will obviously be billable charges directly to you. Colleges and universities can also put together financial aid packages that can help offset the cost of indirect costs. And these indirect costs are things that are going to vary between student, but typically your books and supplies. Transportation, your personal living expenses, and any type of equipment that you have. These are all indirect costs depending upon the classes that you're taking, where you live. Are you going to live on campus? Are you going to live off campus? If so, you may have higher transportation costs than somebody that's living on campus. All students, whether living on or off campus, are going to have personal living expenses. The costs of, just general everyday things, toothbrush, soap, and whatnot. The financial aid package that a financial aid office puts together for you is allowed to include the education-related costs directly for you being able to attend school. And so these indirect costs will be part of the cost of attendance, which we'll talk about here in a second. So again, keep this in mind, direct costs versus indirect costs as we sort of go through the rest of this presentation. The average cost of college right now, again, these numbers you might look at and say, wow, I didn't think that it would be something like this. These numbers here are going to be essentially the cost of attendance numbers that I was just mentioning. These numbers here, let's go ahead and just utilize the four-year public college or university and state, the top right box of $27,940. That is the cost of attendance that a financial aid office would utilize on average to put a financial aid package together for you. That is not going to be the direct cost that you end up paying. Your direct costs should be lower than that or less than that. But a financial aid office, again, is allowed to put a financial aid package together that would meet, hopefully try and meet the numbers that you see here on the screen. Now, again, this is just average. There are going to be schools in each of these categories that might be lower and obviously might be higher. But these are numbers that we received from the College Board Trends in College Pricing for 2022. So these are the averages of what you would see that a cost of attendance would be built on at the various different colleges and universities of your choice. Talking a little bit about the net price, you say to yourself, well, wow, I looked at four examples on the previous slide there. How do I know what's going to be the cost for me? You have some resources that are out there that have been put together by the federal government. And you can see the link down in the blue box there called collegecosts.ed.gov. Essentially, what they've tried to do is put what is called a net price together. The net price is the difference between the sticker price, which is the full cost to attend, minus any of the financial aid and scholarships that you would be receiving. So the idea and the premise is to show exactly what it is, or try and do more of an apples to apples comparison between schools of what you would actually be paying for, either out of pocket or having to utilize student loans or other types of gap financing options in the future. There's a plethora of tools that are out there. They allow for you to compare college costs. They show what the average sticker price is there, but then it also shows what most students end up paying. So it's definitely a resource. And again, I'll highlight the website again, collegecosts.ed.gov. That is a site that you definitely want to have in your list of resources as you start to look at colleges and universities. Again, it's going to give information of either previous year or previous years of what students typically received from financial aid offices, the average tuition and fees price and such that you receive from either college academic year 2022 or 2021. So again, make sure that when you're looking at that information, you understand what year that they are pulling from so that you can try and do as much as you can of an apples to apples comparison. So let's go ahead and move into a document called the FAFSA, which is integral in pursuing higher education financing and funding. The FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, or FAFSA. And basically what it is it's a needs analysis document. The federal government offers this document free of charge. Again, it says free right in the title. If you are ever on a website, if you Googled FAFSA or something like that, if you ever ended up on a website where it charges you in order to complete the FAFSA, definitely we would like to make you aware that the FAFSA is free and that you ought to find the federal government website in order to apply for the FAFSA directly. But the FAFSA is a document, like I mentioned, it's a needs analysis document. You put down various different information pieces, and we'll kind of talk about that in the next slide. But the idea and the premise is to help the financial aid office determine your need. So essentially, when they are putting financial aid awards together, various grants, scholarships, and what forth, they can actually put that together for you so that you understand how much aid you will be receiving. And it'll be based off of some of the information, finances in particular, some of your demographics, whether you're a dependent student or independent and such. And like I said, we'll touch upon that here in the next slide or so. The FAFSA opens every year on October 1st, okay? So if you are thinking about applying for college or university coming up this academic year, 23-24, typically starting either in late June or July, but most colleges and universities, will start in the fall. If you are planning on attending a school in the fall of academic year 2023, you would be filling out the FAFSA now. It is open. It opened back on October 1st, and you would need your 2021 tax return information. And again, we'll kind of go into detail as to some other information that you'll need in order to complete the FAFSA. Okay. So basically what you do need to complete the FAFSA. Again, you can get started at FAFSA.org or FAFSA.ed.gov or FAFSA.gov. You can also start at studentaid.gov. Now, this is the main federal student aid website of the Department of Education. If you want to do the FAFSA online electronically, typically you will have to fill out what is called a FSA ID number. This way here they can verify that you are who you are electronically, and it makes the application process go faster and obviously the processing of the FAFSA go faster. You will need your Social Security number or alien registration number if you're not a U.S. citizen. Like we mentioned before, you'll need your federal income tax returns. W-2s would be very handy to have. Any other records of money earned. You will have the opportunity, even though you have your tax return in front of you, you will have the ability to transfer your federal tax information using the IRS data retrieval tool. And that is built directly right into the electronic portion of the FAFSA. Any bank statements or investment records that may potentially, assist in creating a better picture of your ability to pay. Of course, untaxed income, email addresses. For students out there, if you happen to be watching this presentation today, if you've had an email address that you've had for years and years and you've got a tremendous amount of spam and whatnot going to it, now's a good time to think about creating a new email, a professional email that you can utilize for information and documents and registration as you move forward in your college career. The idea being that this is an email that you will check more readily and be able to answer any questions or see any information that comes in at a moment's notice. So what happens after the FAFSA is completed? So basically, once you fill out the FAFSA and you have the information that we just talked about ready, you filled out the FAFSA information, you've submitted it, it'll take, if you do it electronically, it'll take a few days for it to be processed electronically. With that email, hopefully that professional email that you are now checking on a continuous basis, you will get a notification from the Federal Student Aid Department of Education. It is called a document called the SAR, your Student Aid Report. And basically what that's going to be is it's going to be a synopsis of everything that you put on the FAFSA a few days prior. And what they're going to be doing is asking you to verify that all the information is true and correct. On that FAFSA, they will have a number on the top of the page. It is going to be called your EFC, or your expected family contribution number. And we'll talk about the EFC here in a second. But that SAR, that student aid report, again, is going to be a synopsis of everything you put on there, plus the expected family contribution number. Colleges, any of the colleges that you listed on the FAFSA that you wanted to have receive your information, and you can have up to 10 colleges per session, have this information sent directly to them. Each and every college that you have your FAFSA information sent to will receive your SAR, will receive that expected family contribution, and we'll start working on a financial aid package for you. And sometimes that can be dependent upon your standing in admissions and such. If you're not fully admitted, maybe they won't start working on your package immediately. If you're going to a community college that is an open enrollment school, for instance, they may start working on your package. So even though the FAFSA will be received by the financial aid office, you'll want to make sure you check with the college or university to see if there's any additional steps, maybe on the admission side, that you need to complete in order so that you would be able to receive your financial aid package later in the future. So again, a few slides back, we talked about the cost of attendance. We saw some, pretty decent sized numbers in regards to attending various different 2-year, 4-year public-private colleges. Those costs of attendances that we had highlighted in previous slide, minus the expected family contribution that you receive from the FAFSA, again, that EFC number, will determine or equal your financial need. And that financial need is what financial aid offices are going to start working on in trying to find various different grants, scholarships, and maybe even loans, work study, for instance, any type of aid that they can to try and help meet that financial need. So once they've done that, once they've gone through the process, and let's say everything else is taken care of, you've been admitted, and they have information for you, they are going to go ahead and send you what is called a financial aid offer. Now, this particular offer is just a generic comparison. Each and every college or university is going to have a different reiteration of how they have a financial aid offer presented. However, it should have most of the information that you see on this example. Department of Education is working on colleges and universities to make sure that the language that they use and that the comparisons that they use, plus the information they put on a financial aid offer, is more streamlined and is more comparable between college and university. So again, they may look a little different, but hopefully each and every financial aid offer that you receive from a college or university will have roughly the same information on it. And you can see here in this example, they will list the cost of attendance. They will break it down by the various different factors that go into a cost of attendance. Again, the tuition and fees being a direct cost. The housing and meal plan, if you decide to live on a campus, will be a direct cost. And then you'll have your books and your supplies and transportation, miscellaneous expenses. Those will obviously be estimates that they will put together to try and help create a cost of attendance example for you. And you can see in this example, it's going to be roughly $45,500 per year. Right below that, they should, somewhere on the financial aid offer, list all of your free aid, your grants and scholarships. They will then also list your net costs. So basically the cost of attendance minus any gift aid that you receive. And then they will start talking about work study and then maybe potentially federal student loans that you might be eligible for. And so the reason why they separate those out is they want you to understand the free money that you're receiving and subtracting that from the cost of attendance so that you know exactly if you are going to need student loans to complete your education for that particular year. So let's go ahead and jump into some of those awards that we just saw on the previous screen. What are grants? For those of you that don't know, basically grants are something that you can receive. They're typically awarded on an annual basis. And the nice thing about grants is that it is free money. Okay. Grants can come in various different forms, and they can also be offered by various different entities. One of the most popular grants that's out there and the most widely used grant is the federal Pell Grant. And again, because it has the word federal in front of it, this is a grant that comes directly from the federal government. It is need-based. You will need to file the FAFSA in order to receive a Pell Grant. And you can see the dollar award is up to $6,895 for the current year that we're in, the academic year 22-23. By filing the FAFSA and having an expected family contribution determined, will determine your size of a Pell Grant award, and up to $6,895. For those that have expected family contributions that fall within the scale that allow for you to qualify for a Pell Grant, you will receive a portion of Pell Grant based on your EFC. There are some times where expected family contributions or EFCs might be too high in order to receive a Pell Grant. Grants, like we said, can be offered by numerous sources. We talked about the main one, federal Pell Grant. There's also a federal supplemental educational opportunity grant. This one is a more finite amount of money, and colleges and universities may break the awards anywhere between $100 to $4,000, depending on how much of an allotment they have. And typically, again, it will go to the students that are the most needy. Typically, you almost always have to be a Pell Grant recipient in order to receive an FSEOG award. So this will help as a supplement to the Pell Grant that you potentially have received. But if for some reason, A, you don't file the FAFSA, or B, you're not eligible to file the FAFSA, there are state governments. Obviously, state of California has the Cal Grant program. And so from that standpoint, you can receive both federal Pell Grants, or if you're not eligible to file the FAFSA, you can certainly fill out forms that will allow for you to qualify for the state grants, in particular the Cal Grant. And so again, there are still grants that are available to you. Colleges, as well as independent organizations, will also have grants. Typically, these are called institutional grants, and they may have a name for them in particular, but essentially a college can also supply grants to you as well. Scholarships. This is something that we basically are always encouraging students to take a look at. Right now, currently, we've talked about the grant portion. We talked about filling out the FAFSA in order to qualify for grants and other types of federal aid. Many scholarships are sometimes outside of the FAFSA process. Maybe once in a while, a scholarship might be asked, asking some information off of your FAFSA or so as part of a determinant, as part of the application process. But many scholarships are going to be offered through outside entities, whether these be local or community-based scholarships. Every once in a while, you'll see a scholarship that'll come through from federal or state agency in particular. But a lot of scholarships are going to be offered through the specific college or university that you're planning on attending. But scholarships can also be found through either religious organizations, obviously employers, not only for the student, but also for the parents or dependents. So basically, if you have either parents or students, if you're employed, or potential students, if you're employed, definitely check with your employer to see if they've got a college scholarship program. And parents, if you're out there, definitely check with your HR office or suitable office to find out if they have scholarships available for your dependents. Again, kind of talking about libraries a bit. A lot of local and community-based scholarships sometimes don't know where to advertise their scholarships. So what they try and do is find community-based organizations, in particular libraries, sometimes chambers of commerce, or whatnot, in order to try and publicize their community-based scholarships. So definitely, for those that are looking for scholarships, look for them in libraries and other public places to see if you can find these scholarships being advertised. Private organizations, major companies also offer a tremendous amount of scholarships. You don't necessarily have to be employed by any of these private organizations or major companies. Sometimes private organizations may want you to have a membership, or maybe parents or a particular guardian needs to be a private or it needs to be a member of a private organization. But if this applies to you, certainly seek these out. And again, major companies, these could be nationwide companies, they could be statewide companies, they could even be community companies, but they certainly could be offering scholarships. And again, these could either be nationwide, or they could be regional, or they could be statewide. Again, so you'll definitely want to keep those on your radar. Lastly, there's a lot of publicity and a lot of popularity happening with college or with online search engines. And these online search engines in particular, what they're going to do is aggregate college scholarship offerings and allow for users to kind of be matched to these scholarships based on a particular profile. So essentially what you're going to do is you go out to a college scholarship search and you pull up some information, you start reading about it, and if it's something that you feel like you want to go ahead and apply for and fill out a profile, then essentially by filling out the profile, it would allow for you to look at the scholarships that are in their database and decide whether or not you want to apply for them directly. And so essentially here's some popular college scholarship search engines. You can see here California Coast Credit Union has a scholarship search on their website. You can see the the web address down there, calcoastcu.org/scholarship-search. Right now, they have got roughly 3.5 million scholarships worth more than $18 billion currently available. Here's a couple of other entities out there, FastWeb and Big Future. They are college scholarship search engines as well. This is certainly not the only college scholarship search engines that are out there. There's a plethora of them. So when you're doing your research and deciding which ones particular that you may want to create a profile on, definitely take a look at this one. Take a look, at Cal Coast Credit Union and see if this is something you want to be a part of. Again, these college scholarship search engines are only housing scholarships on there. You decide as an individual if you want to apply for a college scholarship that is listed on there as well. Again, make sure that if Cal Coast Credit Union's college scholarship search is free, so is FastWeb's and Big Future. If you happen to land on a scholarship search that requires you to pay, definitely find someplace else to look for scholarships. But this is where, while you're filling out the FAFSA and the financial aid office is determining your financial aid package, this is where you could be spending a lot of your time seeing if there's any additional money out there that you could find to offset any of the gap that a financial aid office might not be able to meet in order to meet your college expenses. So let's go ahead, for time's sake, make sure that we move into and cover the financing aspect of building a financial aid package. When you fill out your FAFSA, this will allow for you to be eligible for various different aid types. So far we've talked about the grants, in particular the federal Pell Grant. But by filing the FAFSA, this will also allow for you to become eligible for federal student loans. And in particular, the most popular, the federal direct subsidized and unsubsidized student loans. And these are eligible. The direct student loan program is eligible to all students. You can see that there are some particulars between the subsidized and unsubsidized students. Everybody is eligible as long as you meet the requirements of demonstrating either financial need or demonstrating that that you are attending school at least half-time status and that you're not in default on any type of other federal aid program. Other than that, you would be able to qualify for a federal student loan. You can see here that in this example, subsidized loans are eligible to undergraduate students only, not graduate students, and you do have to demonstrate needs. So again, when you fill out the FAFSA and the FAFSA determines your expected family contribution, when that expected family contribution is subtracted from the cost of attendance, going back to our math problem, and it equaled your financial need, you have to have your financial need be a positive number in order for you to qualify for a subsidized loan. If you do not have an expected family contribution that allows for you to have financial need, then you are still eligible for a federal direct student loan, but it's going to be an unsubsidized loan. Both of these programs are the same, but the difference between a subsidized and an unsubsidized loan is that the subsidized portion of a direct student loan means that you are not accruing interest on your particular loan while you are in school at least half-time status. The federal government is paying the interest on that loan for you while you are in an in-school deferment, and again, of at least half-time status or above. An unsubsidized student loan means just that. It is unsubsidized. You are responsible for the interest while you are in school, whether you are in repayment, in school, whatnot, you are responsible for the interest. The nice thing about these student loans is that there is a 6-month grace period at the end. So if you do graduate or happen to withdraw from school, you're not obligated to pay on these loans until that 6-month grace period is ended. You can see some information, more information here about federal student loans. There are some borrowing limits per year. Again, the FAFSA is required. There is a cap of $31,000 aggregate maximum within the federal student loan program. The interest rates are fixed. They're set each and every year, and we're coming up, usually around end of May, first part of June or so, that rate is set for the upcoming year. Again, we did mention that there is a 6-month grace period once you have left school, whether that means that you've withdrawn, graduated, or maybe you've dropped less than half-time status. Typically, the repayment term will be anywhere from 10 to 25 years. And with the federal loan programs, there are various deferment options. In-school deferment is the most popular. You're obviously getting an in-school deferment if you're attending school at least half-time status or above. But there's also economic hardship deferments, and there's also various military deferments available as well, just to name a couple. There are also potentially some loan forgiveness options and income-based repayment options as well. So again, when you are looking at federal loans, make sure that you're paying attention to those. And if you are in the future of needing a potential loan, definitely look at some of the options that you'll have when you're entering into repayment. I think that this is important to know what you're getting into prior to signing up for the loan, but that you'll see that these loans do really have some great benefits to them. So definitely take interest in that and know all the different aspects of these loans. So lastly, kind of getting into the home stretch here. So we've talked about receiving financial aid. You've received your grants, you've applied for your scholarships, and you still had some costs left over, so you took out a federal student loan. Let's say that you still have some more gap there, meaning that you've utilized the maximum amount that you could take out in federal student loans, and that you still have some costs that in order for you to make ends meet. There are some options out there for you to peruse. Tuition payment plans. Most colleges and universities will have a tuition payment plan available. You can take a look at this in an individual college or university's website. They're great because they can help break monthly payments down they can help break payments down into monthly installments. So maybe you do have the money available to pay that gap, but you don't have it all at once. Maybe if it could be broken out over a few months, over a term or so, you would be able to pay that. Typically, it can offer an interest-free option as opposed to a loan. And obviously, it will help reduce the need of potentially having to take out any other types of loans. There might possibly be a charge on this. Some colleges and universities will have a payment plan fee in order to participate in it. And also, too, just like with any type of payment, if you do happen to miss a payment or so, there might be some late penalties. For parents out there, if you have dependents that are going to college and you still have a gap between the aid that you've received and what you need in order to pay the bill, your parents can take a look at taking out a federal direct parent plus loan. It is a federal loan program, so a FAFSA will be required even though the parent is taking it out. The parent is the borrower on the life of this loan. The student does not have any cosigner ability on this loan or anything like that. So this is going to be a 100% obligation of the parent. Students, again, very similar to the direct loan program, have to be enrolled at least half time. And the thing about this loan is that it is a maximum loan amount of the cost of attendance minus any other financial aid received. So if by chance you don't happen to receive any grants or scholarships, you don't happen to take out any federal student loans, parents, if you were willing and wanted to take out the entire cost of education in a Parent Plus loan, you could. There is not a maximum aggregate amount, yearly aggregate amount. Parents, if you do apply and for some reason, because there is going to be a credit check on this loan, if you don't happen to qualify, your undergraduate student will be eligible for up to $4,000 unsubsidized loan. And this would be in addition to any other type of federal direct loan that they are receiving currently. Lastly, if, again, this is something, either of the two options, tuition payment plans or federal student loan, federal Parent Plus loan is not something that you're interested in, there are private student loans. And private loans are just that. They're loans that are funded by banks, credit unions, and other types of financial institutions. The FAFSA is not required on this. The borrower is the student. And potentially, because these are going to be credit-based, sometimes a student may potentially need a cosigner. So for parents that are not keen on having a Parent Plus loan taken out in your name, you may want to think about having your student opt for a private student loan and possibly be a cosigner and help them out that way. But again, that's if your choice of filling the gap decided, the decision you decide is to use a private student loan. Because these are private and they are offered by various different banks, credit unions, and other financial institutions, there can be various different repayment options. There can be various different repayment periods. Like we mentioned before, a cosigner may or may not be required, either based on credit. The terms and the costs can vary widely between lenders. So you definitely want to do some shopping from that standpoint. And of course, student loans, you know, again, if it's taken out in the student's name, and if they did need a cosigner because maybe, let's say, they just didn't have enough credit, they will actually help start building credit if they do take out this type of loan. Because private student loans, again, are independent, they can have variable rates, they can have fixed rates, and they can vary differently between the rate spreads. So you'll definitely want to use that as a comparison tool when opting and looking for various different types of programs. This chart here we'll utilize for later, but I want to make sure that it was in the presentation. There's a lot of information. You can peruse this at your own time on the recording, but basically wanted to make sure that it was included so that you could take a look at that again at a later time. So lastly, home stretch. We've covered all of this information. Make sure that you carefully review all your information from your financial aid report, the SAR, student aid report. You do have the option of accepting or declining any of the aid that you receive on a financial aid offer, especially if that free aid you want to have and you do not want to have any student loans. You can accept the free aid and decline any other type of loan if you wished. You don't have to accept, like we said, understand any of the renewal requirements. Make sure any grants and scholarships, if you do apply for scholarships, make sure you understand what the renewal requirement is. Read through all your terms and conditions on everything. And again, having a professional email, anything sent to you, make sure that you read through that and that you address anything that's in there that needs to be addressed. And again, make sure that if you're applying to multiple institutions, you compare the financial aid offers that looking both the total amount of aid and the type of aid that is offered. I know that CalCoast has a lot of information in regards to financial wellness. If any tips or so that you want to have to help kind of understand some of the terms we're using today, CalCoast has a lot of financial wellness products out on their website. They can be found here on this web link. So in conclusion, make sure that you understand that you start with money you don't have to pay back. Again, grants and scholarships. This is the free money. If you still need more money to finance your education, explore your federal student loan options by filing the FAFSA. And lastly, if you still need more to help fund the gap, consider responsible education loan options or tuition payment plans.